Hello, hello. Hey, everyone. Oh, it's nice to see some friends on here. Um, so before I start, I just wanted to say, actually, this is like one of the first times I've ever done a live Q&A. I've done obviously live interviews and things like that, but not a live Q&A, and it's kind of a little bit stressful, especially if you're a perfectionist like me. Um, But I do want to say hi to Gamze, Thorsten, Ihan, Anna, Jihad. Nice to see you guys here. And whoever else joins in, I'll give you guys a shout out when you guys come on. So usually, I guess that they keep the YouTube lives relatively short because you post them later. But today, since it's my first time doing it, I'm thinking of doing an hour with you guys. That way, if you guys end up joining in a little bit later, you can still ask your questions. And there should be plenty of answers for all of you. If this happens to cut out, I will reconnect my phone, but I think this should be pretty good. Also, for all of your questions, let me just give you moderator first. It's tricky with this stuff. All right, so I'm going to ask you guys to just kind of hold off on the questions initially because there are a few people that have already submitted questions in advance. When I posted this last week or 2 weeks ago, talking about the YouTube Live, a lot of you guys sent your comments and some private messages with some pretty good questions. So I am going to address those first, and then I will open it up to questions from the rest of you guys as soon as all of that is done. So one of the first questions I had gotten was related to this push-up challenge I'm doing. I'm not sure if you guys are on Instagram, but I have a few people, Ahmed, Felician, and a few other people that have like signed up to this push-up challenge. And the most common question I was getting is why this particular challenge? Of course, there's a lot of fitness challenges that you could do. So why this particular challenge? There was a question, there was a night out in New York, and I was at Salsa Mania, and I took a picture with one of my friends, and my arm in the picture just looked absolutely massive. And I hadn't gone to the gym because I moved to a new place. So I haven't gone to the gym in a while. And I was thinking, okay, well, my gym is still about an hour away. So I'm definitely not going to be going there anytime soon. So what could I do at home? And since my arms were like the main focus, which I really didn't like how big they were in that picture, and I wanted to get fit. And I thought, like, what's a good exercise that would be good for toning up as well as kind of like a general overall fitness thing. So push-ups came to mind. I've seen a lot of these push-up challenges from other friends of mine who are doing it as well. And I thought, why not do it on Instagram and see if I could get some of you guys to join. And I'm surprised actually that quite a lot of people actually did join. And where are we at? We're at day 22 of a 30-day challenge. So it's been pretty good, actually. One second. Oh, these control rooms are kind of interesting and a little bit crazy. All right. So yeah, the push-up challenge was for basically that purpose, to get a little bit more fit, primarily to get my arms toned, which I think I did a pretty good job so far. I also found that doing something every day, even if it's just a little bit, and 100 push-ups is not really all that much. Actually, if you think about it, if you did even 5 every hour, you would end up with 100 before the day's done. It kind of gives you this feeling of, I don't know, sense of accomplishment. And sometimes I have my days where I haven't gotten nearly what I wanted to get done, but because I have people on Instagram who I have promised that I will post every day when I've finished my push-ups, and who I'm checking in on as well whenever they post theirs, keeps me a little bit more accountable, and it's at least that one thing that I've gotten done that day. So that's one thing. What else was there? There was another question that was regarding, oh yeah. So two of the people on Instagram, George and who else is this? Shruti, had asked me about all the classes that you take and then forgetting them, or how to actually apply them on the dance floor. So the one advice I always give to people is, it doesn't matter how much you're learning if you can't actually apply it on the dance floor, because the environment within which we're actually going to be dancing is going to be not a controlled environment like a classroom. We're going to have people dancing around us. The music is going to be loud. There's people walking. It might be dark. The floor might be different from what we're used to. Could be a multitude of factors. But it's very important to make sure you can test those things on the dance floor. However, if you're taking a lot of classes where you are learning, I don't know, 20 counts of shines and then another 20 counts of turn patterns, and you're taking a class 2 or 3 times a week, that's a lot of material. So when you get on the dance floor, the chances of you actually remembering all of that might be tough. You might have a difficult time. So yes, of course, go to class, learn as much as possible. But when it comes to going out and practicing and dancing, try and take a few smaller tidbits. So out of all the shines that you learn, 20 counts, maybe not all of them resonate with you. Maybe there are 2 or 3 particular shines that you really enjoy. So what you want to do is you want to take those 3, practice them at home as much as you can, and then try and remember those for when you're actually going out on the dance floor. Because slowly you can actually start to add more to your repertoire. Same thing with partner work. Even for myself, I mean, I've been dancing for 18 years now, and I started leading as well. So there are a few, turn patterns that I really liked. But when I would take a class to learn some turn patterns, I wouldn't try to remember the entire thing. I would generally go for what I really liked and then see where I could incorporate that into my dancing. If I kept on trying to remember every single thing, it's often just too much. So if you guys are taking classes regularly, that's excellent. But you want to be mindful of how you actually practice all of that material, because it's just, I mean, despite how large our brains are and how much potential we have, we're just not going to remember everything when it comes to actually being on the dance floor. Let's see. I know I had some other questions here. So another question was, any tips by Bianca, this is on Instagram, any tips for dancing with heels on and keeping your steps small while turning, as well as spotting? So I give a spins workshop pretty often, and one of the things that I always talk about is spotting. Spotting is probably one of the most important things when it comes to speed and precision in your spins. And instead of looking at spotting as something that's this foreign concept of, you have to look and leave your head until the very last minute or anything like that, you want to look at it more like a natural movement. And so what I mean by a natural movement is, if somebody called your name, if somebody called my name from behind me, I wouldn't turn with my whole body like a robot. I would snap my head back. Not in a way that I'm going to break my neck, of course, but I would turn around very quickly just to see who's there. And that is spotting. You see something, you spot something, and you turn your head to look at it, and then your body is going to align with it. So one of the tips or tricks when it comes to spotting is to always make sure you have a purpose for coming around. So sometimes, for example, people spot and they just try and get back to the front of the room, depending on where they are. But the greater your focus, the range that you're looking at, the harder it is to stop on one point. So if you're looking at this entire space, well, technically I could stop here, 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 anywhere along that range. And so because I haven't given my body the type of focus and direction to stop in a particular place, like not here, but right here, it's going to be harder for me to have that precision. So sometimes I like to use the analogy of, if you're dancing with a partner at least, to imagine you have something interesting to say to them. And so every time you come around, you're telling them something new. And then you're leaving, you have nothing else to say. And then you're like, oh, wait, I thought of something else. And you come back around to tell them something new again. And in this way, it kind of keeps the conversation a little bit interesting as well. And at the end of the day, I think the more fun you can have with the technicalities of dance, the easier it ends up being to execute them. So that would be for spotting. Bianca also asked about keeping your steps small while turning. So the key to keeping a smaller space is to make sure you step appropriately. And so what that means is, if this is the floor and this is my foot, if I step with my entire foot and I need to get around this foot, it's going to take me a little bit more time because I have to get around all of this surface area. And so if you want to take smaller steps and you want to keep your dance smaller, you cannot step with your entire foot, because let's say I've got this foot, then my next foot, I'm going to end up taking all of this space. But if I step on the balls of the feet, then I only have to pass this much of my foot. And so it ends up being a little bit easier to create smaller steps and a more compact dance. However, if you're dancing on your toes the entire time, you're probably going to tire yourself out. Like if I stay on the balls of my feet the entire night, my calves are burning after 4 or 5 songs. So you also want to know basically when you have a chance to rest. So you're not always required to be stepping small and moving around very quickly. Sometimes you have the time to just relax and chill out. And so whenever you have that moment to relax and chill out is when you would place your entire foot on the ground, keep your weight on the front of the foot, but allow your body to relax and let the muscles relax as well. And when you need to create some type of movement, that's when you would end up going back into the balls of the feet. And of course, anytime you need to keep everything small, that's where you go. Does anyone else have any issues with stepping small or spotting? If you do, send a little smiley face and agree with me that you do in the chat. Okay. So what else do we get here? Tabusha on Instagram had asked about how to do more multiple spins in an 8 count. She said, the kind you do with Terry. How as a follow can I do more than 2 to 3 in a row? All right, so this one's interesting. I mean, I get a lot of questions about spins. And the one thing I could say is when I first started, I loved watching people spin. There was a girl in Toronto who I think she had a ballet background as well, and her spins were just incredibly on point, and she would just spin for almost an entire song. It was amazing. And when I had started, I was like, oh yeah, I would like to be able to do that one day. And of course, I'd end up asking someone to dance, and maybe I'd be able to execute one spin, and then the guy would just keep on going. And then I would end up losing my balance at some point. So what I realized is it's not so much about wanting to do a lot of spins and going in trying to do a lot of spins right off the bat. Because anything that we do, um, with anything that we do in terms of practicing or learning, whatever you do, you're going to learn. So if you are going for 5 to 10 spins right off the start without ever having mastered a single spin, and you start doing them poorly, the chances of you learning all of those bad habits are very high. And so there are a lot of people out there who dance and may be able to do 5 spins, but they can't do a single spin because they never bother to break it down and understand the technique. And so if you do want to do more spins, first, double check to see if you can even do a single spin, right? How good are your spins when you're just doing 1 or 2? And then if you have that down, try to find a rhythm, try to find the pattern that you're using to execute a double spin, and then use that towards creating triples and quadruples and stuff like that. So personally, when I first started, that's what I was doing. I was going in and trying to do as many spins as possible, and I was losing my balance and I was pulling down on the leader, which ended up being not a fun dance for neither one of us. So then I started focusing on my spins and getting good at doing a single one very clean, and then adding a double and doing that as well as I could, and then adding a triple. And then eventually you'll find after 3 spins, there's a rhythmical element to how to execute them. There is the spotting with your head coming back around, which happens every so often. It's almost metronomic. So you could add a metronome to every time you spot. The way you use your feet to spin also is a rhythmical element. So every time you push off the ground, that also happens on a certain rhythm. And then the speed with which you do your spin, where you are speeding up to get around to the front, slowing down at the front, speeding up to get around and slowing down, that also has its own rhythmical element. And the beauty of life is we're used to rhythm. I mean, I say this in all my workshops, that when we walk with a rhythm. When we talk with a rhythm. Our hearts beat with a rhythm. Like everything in life has a certain pulse. And so if you can kind of find a way to attach whatever it is that you're doing or that you're learning or you're practicing to that pulse, it becomes significantly easier to master it and to practice it comfortably. Does everyone understand that? Give me a smiley face or something in the chat to say you do. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's see. What else do we have here? Okay. So Erica Guzman, also from Instagram. The Instagram followers you guys are awesome, man. You guys are right on point. As soon as I post something, I get like so many comments from there. The question is, how do you politely stop your partner from giving you dancing pointers when they can't even lead correctly? How many of you have had that happen when you're dancing? Where there's basically someone who's dancing with you, and then maybe you end up going off beat or something. They tell you, no, that's not actually where you're supposed to step. Actually, you're supposed to prep like this. Actually, you're off time. I don't know if you've had that or not. But for me, actually, there was one time I was dancing in Italy, and there was a guy, he was dancing with some other people. He looked really good as a good dancer. And it was in a small city, Torino, if I'm not mistaken. And I didn't, I I didn't really know anybody there, and I don't think any of those people traveled or really went to salsa congresses. So I don't think anyone really knew me there either, other than the friends that I'd come with. And I asked this guy to dance, and he, very casual conversation. There was a little bit of a, there was a little bit of a, what's called, a attitude, a slight attitude when we were talking. And he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" I said, "Oh, I live in New York." "Oh, cool. You guys dance on two over there?" And I said, "Yes, I also dance on one." And so there was a really good song, and he asked, if I wanted to dance, and I can't remember if I knew the song or not, but I said, "Sure." He said, "What do you want to dance on one or on two?" And I said, I don't know, depends, whatever you want. He goes, "Okay, we dance on two because you're from New York." And I said, "Sure." So we started dancing, and because I knew the song, I was playing around. I was kind of like doing different stuff with my feet and hitting the beats and the music without actually, connecting with him. And so I said, "Oh, yeah, sorry." And so he was telling me he would stop dancing. He's like, "Do you prefer to dance on one?" And I said, "Whatever you want." And so we switched. We started dancing on one. I kept on hitting all the beats still, doing my musicality stuff. And then he stopped again. He's like, "What do you want to dance on?" And I said, "It really doesn't matter to me." I'm like, "You can pick whatever you want to dance on." And he's like, "Yeah, but you're not doing your basic step. You're supposed to be doing your basic. Like if you dance on two, you're supposed to break back on six. Or if you dance on one, you're supposed to break back on one." And I was pretty shocked because I never had anyone really say it like that to me. And then secondly, it wasn't even like I was a super beginner dancer where I didn't know my timing. I actually knew the timing. I just wanted to play around with the beats and the music. And I turned to the guy and I said, "Is it affecting your lead? Like, are you having a difficult time leading?" And he's like, "No, but," and he was basically going to continue with the same, "But you're supposed to do your basic." And I said, "If it's not affecting your lead, then why not just keep dancing? If it affects your lead, I will adjust my dancing. But if it's not affecting, who cares what beat I'm dancing? Who cares what I'm doing with my feet? I'm still following you." And so we finished that dance, but it was a little bit of a clash. Also, I'm going to ask you guys to pause for a second, just because I cannot seem to see any of the chat messages here. And no idea where they are. All right, so this is my first YouTube live, and I'm a little bit annoyed. I was thinking that it was going to be super, super, super easy to see everything, but it is not. I'm going to check right now. 1 second. Folks, I appreciate your patience. I know you guys are joining from all over the world, which is exciting. So I appreciate that very much. All right. Okay. 1 second. Yeah, I'm definitely, sometimes I feel like such a newbie with technology, even though I feel like I'm very technologically advanced. Okay, there we go. Now I got everyone's chats. Yay! Finally seeing more than just one smiley face or 2 or 3 smiley faces. Okay, so I'm going to answer all of these in a second. I did miss quite a few questions. Okay, all right. So getting to your questions in a second. Let me answer one more thing about the question that Erica had asked me about how do you actually deal with people who are instructing you on the dance floor. My general response to that is always to just be very polite. Sometimes if you feel like you're encountering a big ego on the dance floor, then I usually take a more humble approach, and I just kind of like give their ego the right of way and let that 5 minutes pass. And then the next time, of course, if they ask me to dance again, I can choose whether I want to have that confrontation or that conversation again. So sometimes if I'm dancing with somebody who's giving me these dirty looks and kind of, oh, you know, you should be doing this, or rolling their eyes if I do something creative, I smile and just try and have fun with that 5 minutes. So I would not recommend arguing with them on the dance floor, because I feel like most people who have that strong personality to tell you and to teach you, even though you never asked for anything from them, will probably just continue to fight you. So it's often not worth it, and it's sometimes better to basically choose your battles. All right, so I'm going to get to some of these questions now that I've seen how many there are. I apologize. Okay, so we have a lot of hellos from Portland, India. All right, so for some of you guys who are asking when I will be coming to India, I will be there next year, actually, for the Kolkata Festival. I can't remember the dates, forgive me, Hitesh, but I will be there next year. I love India, actually. If any of you guys are wondering about places to travel and stuff, India is definitely one of those places that's worth going to. There's so much richness in culture, and in terms of dance communities as well, it's one of those places that has grown significantly year to year. Like every year that I went there, I would see people that were just absolute beginners, and merengue was the dance that they were so excited about. And then the following year, I'd come back and their dancing had improved. And then those same people who were dancing on student teams ended up joining the pro teams, and then finally having their own teams. And now a lot of those people are having their own events. And that is actually one of the people whose events I'll be going to next year. Hitesh is one of those dancers who I saw way back when. So it's really nice to see everyone kind of improving like that. All right, another question here. Anna from Spain. Hermana. How do you act when you say no to someone and suddenly there's another person who asked you to dance one last song before leaving? All right, so this one is a really tricky one. And my simplest answer to this, and it might not really be all that simple to you guys when it comes down to actually saying no, is just be honest and be nice. At the end of the day, that is all we can really offer of ourselves to anybody, is our honesty, our sincerity, and being polite and respecting the person that we are speaking to. So what I usually do is, if I really wanted to dance with somebody, and it could be the last song, and somebody had asked me, but I really wanted to dance with someone else, I would usually just say to that person, I'm really sorry. I really, really want to dance this song with this person. I would say that. Or my friend is leaving right now and we haven't danced all night and I'd really like to dance with that person. So I try and be as honest about it as possible and as nice about it as possible, because there are, we're all there to have fun, right? At the end of the day, you know, someone would say, well, you know, if you're there and someone asks you to dance, you should dance with them. I'm like, but the person that asked me to dance wanted something in that moment. They wanted to dance with me. And in that moment, maybe I don't want to dance with them. I want to dance with somebody else, right? And I think just as they're entitled to ask me for that dance, I am entitled to also want something and go after what I want to go after. Now, maybe I might not get what I want. Sometimes I ask people to dance too. Like, I always give the example of Super Mario. He's one of my favorite partners to dance with, because he's got so many crazy turn patterns that are always keeping me on my feet. But when I dance with him, there's always a line. There's always a cue to dance with him. And then when I ask him, he's like, oh, girl, I got to dance with her and I got to dance with her. And so I don't always get what I want either. But if he wants to dance with me and he's able to dance with me, he would say yes. Sometimes he doesn't want to. Sometimes he's tired. Sometimes he doesn't like the song. And I have to respect that not everyone wants the same thing at the same time as I do, and vice versa for anyone who's asking me. So the best way to deal with it, I would say, is just to be kind about it, be polite, understand that you're speaking to another human being, and just treat them with respect and be honest. All right, so let's see what else we got. Ahmed, my friends from Egypt, which I really miss that country too. So the comment is, I try to focus on my style, but sometimes the salsa on two takes over. What should I do to not get unfocused? So when it comes to styling, I'm not entirely sure, Ahmed, if I understand you with the salsa on two taking over a different style of dancing that you're dancing. But in general, when it comes to style, I would say that when you're partner dancing, if you're dancing on your own and you're doing solo shines or anything like that, for sure, do whatever you want. And really, there's nothing to stop you from doing that. But when you're dancing with your partner, the main focus should always be your partner. So if your styling is getting in the way of that connection, if you feel like your partner is feeling kind of restrained or nervous or feeling neglected, then all of your styling, in my opinion, needs to go out the window so that you can spend that time with your partner instead. Because at the end of the day, it is a partner dance. And the whole purpose of us getting on the dance floor with another person is to connect with another person. All right. I hope that answered your question. So just in the chat, just curious how you guys are enjoying it so far. Throw in a smiley face or whatever emoji you like. It would be nice to see that now that I can actually see the chat. All right. Tibor asked, Magna, in your opinion, what makes a male dancer a good partner on the social dance floor? And with what kind of dancer do you have the most fun? That's an excellent question. I am definitely going to elaborate on this in a future video as well. But very quickly, to answer your question, Tibor, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. The very short answer would be someone who wants to connect with me. So sometimes I have dancers that are very high level dancers. They can execute a lot of patterns. They have a lot of shines. They've got a good lead and all of that. But there's really no connection with my partner. So they are kind of in their own world. And for me, the more connected someone is with me, where there's a lot of eye contact and there's kind of a smile, a playfulness, those kind of things make for a really good dance for me personally. And I could do with someone who is less advanced, but has that eye contact and that fun personality, than dancing with someone who's very, very advanced, who could really care less if they were dancing with me or with somebody else. And I would say at the end of the day, your dances should change depending on who you're dancing with. Like if you're dancing with someone who is a beginner, then your whole energy and your persona should kind of drop a little bit. You shouldn't be up here trying to be showy, but you should be more of a subdued personality to connect with your partner and bring them out of their shell that they might be in. And if your partner is fun and funky, then try and adapt, try and create something in your dancing that forces you out of your comfort zone, especially if you are usually very reserved. And in that way, what you do is you can actually connect with another person. It's like having a conversation. I mean, surely you've had these conversations with people where you're talking to them and you're telling them this great story about some funny moment you had on your travels, and the person that is listening to you is like, oh, that's interesting. That's really exciting. because they're always speaking like that, so they can't even adapt and show you the same enthusiasm. But if you talk to somebody and you tell them something where you get enthusiastic and they get enthusiastic too, all of a sudden you like lift each other up. And it's the same thing on the dance floor. So on the dance floor, if you have somebody who's doing something that's funky, why not try it and see where you guys can go together? Or if you have someone who's being very romantic and soft and elegant, like try and follow that and see where that dance can go for both of you together. I hope that answered your question, Tibor. Ooh, damn. Mary Supertramp asked me 3 favorite movies. Okay, 3 favorite movies. Gattaca with Ethan Hawke, Uma Thurman, and Jude Law. Gladiator with Russell Crowe, and Inception. For now, I'm sure that would change if you ask me again next week, but those are off the top of my head 3 of my favorites. Gattaca, I would recommend to everybody. It's this movie about basically that there's no gene for the human spirit. So though they were talking, it was 1995, though they were talking about cloning and all that kind of stuff, they could never clone the human spirit. So even if you had everything in your pocket, and I guess this kind of applies to dance and applies to life and everything, even if you're endowed with all the intelligence and all the skills and great physique and stamina and everything, there's something about the human spirit that's very unique to each one of us. And if you have that grit, if you have that desire, if you have that passion, I think you can overcome whatever obstacles might be in your way or whatever shortcomings you might have personally. So Gattaca is a fantastic movie. And if you guys ever watch that movie, if you haven't seen it and you're watching it because of my recommendation here, I would love to know what you think about it. So make sure you send me a message because I would like to know that. George Bosco, I feel like you might have been the one who asked me the question on Instagram. So I'm glad I answered that for you. Thank you for someone who said I have nice hair. Adam from India, my darling. Where does one spot while sitting? Well, I am currently sitting. My legs are crossed, and I am spotting my laptop. It depends what kind of spin you're doing. I'm presuming you're asking about spins. So it depends what kind of spins that you're doing. But generally, if you have a lot of other elements in the spin, like you have to focus on other positioning, sometimes you just need to have one solid unit and everything moves together. And so in that case, it means having a good connection with your leader. And then basically the lead puts himself or herself in the right position to keep that one unit moving. So you actually don't want to add anything with your spot because that might actually throw off your positioning. Devlin, I wished I was coming back to Portland this year. Of course, Carolina's there, so I got family, but I will try and make it back out to Portland soon. Bengal Electrovision, I think I already mentioned I'll be in Kolkata next year. That's my next time back to India. All right, you're great. Thank you, guys. Okay, so Angelo Ruggiero, grumpy old man here. What did I miss? I think you were talking about balls. Okay. All right, guys. Does anyone have any other questions? How are you guys enjoying it so far? Throw in a smiley, throw in something that you want. And Hitesh is there. Hello, Hitesh. I will see you next year in Kolkata, which will be very exciting. Okay, so there was actually one other comment I am just seeing my notes here that I forgot to talk about. That someone had mentioned in response to a video that I did on rejection that was already posted. Angela, I'm not sure if that was what you were talking about, but one of the comments to that video was that you shouldn't say no, because if somebody took the courage to ask you to dance, then you should, under pretty much like every circumstance, say yes, unless you can't because you're tired. But not wanting to is not a good enough reason. I already mentioned this before, but wanting is actually pretty much all the reason we do anything that we do in life. It's something that we want to do. So this person's comment, I believe it's Malte, his comment was that if you don't want to dance, then you should not be standing around the dance floor. And I would like to just say that going out dancing is not always just about dancing. I mean, when I go social dancing, yes, for me, I want to be on the dance floor. I'm not much of a spectator type of person. I don't really like standing around and watching people. However, there are a lot of people who enjoy just the social environment. There are a lot of people who want to have maybe one dance, not to get all sweaty and disgusting like I sometimes do. And they want to watch, they want to stand around, they want to be part of all of that energy that's on the dance floor and watch other people dance. And if that's the case, then I don't feel like we should be pushing them away from the dance floor just because they don't want to actually dance if someone asks them. So again, I this one's a really big one, and it's a really important one, especially to me. And I'm going to say this coming from being an artist, because there's this expectation of artists that, okay, well, if you're hired for an event, that your job is also dancing, social dancing. And there is no contract that says that for us. First of all, I would not sign a contract that would say that, because for me, social dancing is fun, and I don't want to feel like I have to do it. I want to do it because I like to do it. And it's one of the reasons I would say, after 18 years of being in the scene, that I still love it, is because I do it when I want to do it, not because I ever have to. So on that note, it's really important for us to get comfortable, one, with saying no, but also hearing no, as long as it's in a polite manner. The less expectations you have of the people on the dance floor who you're asking them to dance, and just pretty much anybody in life, the less expectations you have, you also have less disappointment. Because if you're expecting a lot from people who don't owe you anything, actually, then the chances of you being disappointed and having your hopes crashed and all that kind of stuff are higher. But if you go up to somebody and you ask them to dance, and your whole plan is just to either get on the dance floor with somebody or get on the dance floor with that person, but that person is not the be all end all of your life and your worth, if they say no, then it becomes much easier to have fun that night. Because there are a lot of people, and I'll tell you guys, and you can doubt it if you want, but I promise it's true, is that I ask people to dance and they say no. And I'm not talking just about like Super Mario, who I was talking about before. But I ask people to dance and they don't know me, and they, maybe kind of like look at me and they're like, no, thank you. Or they know me and they know how I dance and they don't want to dance with me because of the way I dance. So I still kind of get like that dirty look and don't want to dance. I can have fun with a lot of people. I don't need that one person to have fun. And at the end of the day, do you even want to dance with a person that doesn't really want to dance with you, right? Like, I wouldn't want to do coffee with someone who wasn't interested in hanging out with me. So why would I spend 5 minutes embraced with someone, touching somebody, letting them touch me, if they didn't really want to be there, right? So, all right. Couple more questions. Wow, the time is flying. I didn't realize that an hour would go by. I feel like I could have answered more questions. Well, actually, no, all I did was answer questions. well, we'll see for the next session how long I end up doing it. So, um, Romain asked, when am I coming back to Paris? I'm not sure, but definitely not in the winter. I did not enjoy the winter weather there. Anna asked, what should I do? Oh, no, I got this one. Okay. So, yes, Adam, I will be in India and I will see you. Hitesh will take care of you, I'm sure. All right. So, okay, Justin. Justin asked that I feel like what you went through speaks to schools instructors teaching patterns and shines as compartmentalized units. As a teacher, how can you teach structure along with spontaneity and musicality? Justin, that's an excellent question. And I am actually coming up with a course that is going to be talking about that musicality. There are many different techniques of approaching that. I think the way most schools and instructors teach patterns and shines is because that's kind of how it's been done for a really long time. And the focus for most students when they enter into the dance scene is to learn as much as possible. And it ends up being a lot more about quantity than it does about quality. And I think that's where, as instructors, we need to really focus on what we're teaching, but also what is the contribution that we want to have on the actual dance community. Because it's not just about the person that we're teaching in that class. It's about what they go and they take on the dance floor and what they give to their partner and so on and so forth. And it spreads out like that. So all of my classes, I always try and incorporate musicality into them because whatever I do on the dance floor is often inspired by the music. And so I don't want people to think that, I'm going to do 20 counts of 8 of shines that have absolutely zero correlation to the music, because that's not how I dance. But if other dancers feel comfortable doing that, of course, once they turn into instructors, that's what they're also going to end up teaching. But I am going to work on creating a course, an online course. So maybe that's might be of some interest to you in the future. And Sabrina, my lovely Sabrina from Switzerland. Are there any different tips for followers based on body height? Excellent. Wow, excellent question. I usually don't have anyone talk to me about height unless they're saying short. But I know, Sabrina, you're definitely a taller follower. So there are times that I've danced with people that are significantly shorter. There was one guy, Chris from Chicago, I think, and he was probably, up to my chest, short guy. And we would dance, and when he would try and give me a turn or something like that, I would often just kind of duck. I would bend a little bit in my knees. That cannot be super comfortable for obviously dancing like that all night. But I think leaders have an equal responsibility when it comes to dancing with a tall follower. There are some moves, and I think this applies to leads and follows. There are some moves that we learn that we are practicing with someone of a certain height and size. And we cannot assume that it's going to work on everybody. So as a leader, if you are leading someone who's very tall, then you might not want to do a lot of things that end up with your arms over their head. Or if you do, then you want to be on the balls of your feet to accommodate that. As a follower, if you're very tall, you might end up releasing the connection and then picking it back up later, so that you don't have this feeling like you're getting pulled down by your lead when he's trying to give you a turn. So you might end up releasing the connection and just picking it back up. There's a technique to that as well, which I realized from actually a lot of dances and from classes that I might need to break down. So I will try and come up with something for that, Sabrina, that I hope will help you out and other people as well. Okay. Favorite dessert? Cookies. No, I'm joking. Actually, yeah, I love cookies. This is Carolina's asking me this question, and I think she knows already that I love Trader Joe's cookies, the chocolate chip, because anytime we would hang out and she had a box of cookies, I would um, devour them. And they came to a point where they were these tiny little cookies that were so delicious and so good for dipping. But one time I bought a box, and the entire box was uh, crushed. Like there were only the top layer of cookies were actually still in shape, and the rest of the cookies were completely smashed up. And so what I did was I just poured my milk into the bucket, and the bucket was about this big. I poured my milk into the bucket, and that was my breakfast or lunch or dinner, whatever time of the day I ate that. All right. Cool. So we are almost finished here, guys. Next in the UK, I was just there, Angelo. I was there just 2 weeks ago, I think. Okay, I'm going to answer two more. Oh, God damn, you guys are like coming with the questions real fast now. Okay, I'm going to answer two more questions right now before we kind of sum this up, but I will get to all of your questions later for sure. Okay, so feel free to keep on writing them. If I don't get to them now, I will definitely get to them later. One of the questions was, how would you like to be asked to dance by a beginner? Angelo asked that. And I would say timing is everything. So if you see, obviously, if I'm like drenched in sweat and I look like I need a break, that might not be the best time. But also kind of choose the song. Like if it's some super fast song and you're a beginner dancer and you're not even sure if you're comfortable dancing to a fast song, you might just want to wait until like a slower song to ask someone to dance. And the best way is always with a smile. I cannot stress that enough. Just approach somebody as if they're another human being and give them an option. Because if you approach them with this feeling of like, I asked you to dance, so you have to dance with me, you're gonna get a lot of resistance right off the bat. And personally, I hate feeling like I'm forced to do something or that someone's expecting me that I must do something. So I prefer to have that option. And the nicer the request, even if I can't say yes in that moment, I will often go and find you later, depending on the size of the event, if I can find you. So always with a smile and kind of just choose your battleground, you know, decide if that song is the best song that you want to ask someone to dance. And Antoinette, you asked the question, I've hit a salsa funk dancing since 2009. It's like writer's block. What can I do to reclaim the love I feel I've lost? I kind of hit a funk also back in, it was kind of after I got injured. And it was this time where I just started feeling like everyone was treating me like a machine. And the fun that I was having wasn't really fun anymore because it was just seemed to be fun for everyone else, but it seemed like nobody cared about me. And I kind of lost my connection with the salsa scene at that time. But the way I ended up getting it back was to, one, focus on what was important to me and what I enjoyed about the dance. So I really like the music, and I really like exploring the different ways I can connect with my partner and be creative with my partner. So I would say if you've hit a salsa funk, maybe one, try not to go out all the time. Try and maybe go out once a week or once every 2 weeks and find a good party where there are a lot of people to dance with. And then instead of trying to do whatever it was you were doing before, maybe go in there and just try and adapt and see who you see on the dance floor who's having fun. Ask them to dance and try and absorb their energy. Because sometimes we don't have the energy to give, but there are a lot of people who have energy to give, and it's worth just sitting in their ray of light, you know, because you can still end up having a lot of fun by doing that. So sometimes I am the one who's giving off all that energy. I'm usually the one who's laughing and smiling and goofing around, and I find that the people I dance with, even when they're really straight-faced and serious, will usually crack eventually and end up having a good time and laugh and smile eventually in the dance with me. And sometimes I'm not really having the best of times, but I'll end up dancing with a friend of mine who's like, come on, let's just dance. We'll have fun. And they start goofing around, and sure enough, they pull me out of my funk. So don't always feel like you're responsible on your own to figure a way out. Sometimes there are people out there who are already out of it, and it's worth maybe just taking a step in their direction and seeing what they can spread to you. Okay, so guys, we are almost 5 minutes out. I will answer your questions if you didn't get a chance. The chat actually goes pretty fast, especially once Miss Magna finds her way to the chat. Sorry for missing your questions initially. Before we close out, if you guys enjoyed this, please throw a smiley face in there so that I know if I should do this again. This was my first time doing it, and I wasn't really sure if this was something that would be useful to all of you. So if it is, throw in a smiley face or a thank you or a yes, please do another one. I'll definitely organize something else in the future then. If you have any further questions, on my website, magnagopal.com/live is all the info on the live Q&A. You guys can submit your questions there as well, just in case you don't get a chance to submit it here. And what was the other thing I wanted to tell you guys? If you want to stay in touch, I mean, I do post a lot of other little small empowered videos and little tips and tricks on my Instagram and on my Facebook. So if you're not already connected with me there, definitely take the time to go and check that out. And finally, this is really, really important to me. If you go to magnagopal.com/live, there is a small section on that page that says feedback form. If you could take just 4 to 5 minutes and fill out that form and let me know what your experience was and how you enjoyed this, it would make a huge difference in the next one that I plan. And I finally just want to say thank you so much for making today such a fun live experience for me. Now I know how to get to the chat, so in the future when I do it, do not worry, I will not miss all of your chats in there. And I hope that I can continue to help you in your journey going through dance and through life. And this is the reason I do this, is because I feel like when you're in a position of authority and when you're in a position of greater knowledge than other people, that your responsibility is to share that and to help other people grow and to get there. So this is one of the ways that I'm doing it, because I know, obviously, considering where all of you guys are logging in from, that it's not possible for us to actually meet in person and see me at a workshop or do a private lesson with me. So I am going to make my online presence a little bit more prominent and a little bit more available to you guys with online courses, online coaching, and these live Q&As. So definitely connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. My name is pretty unique, Magna Gopal, so you can find me pretty easily on any of those platforms. And stay up to date, and I look forward to chatting with you guys soon. Thank you, guys.